Guys, it's April and I have got my hands on the Pitt Artist Pen Dual Markers. I have had the Pitt Artist pens since my artist college days. So I've been playing with these for quite a long time. And then when I saw that they now have these dual markers where you've got this little tiny little bullet nib on one end and a brush on the other, I had to give this a try. This is, I believe, the 30, because I can read, the 30 set, which I believe is all of the dual markers that they have in this line. I did buy this with my own money, so this is going to be an honest review. But I will state that I am somewhat of a fan of the artist pens already, even though they are a little bit different than the traditional markers. There's a little bit of a learning curve and a different technique to using them, but I have enjoyed using them for years. And with this nice little bullet tip, I wanted to give this a try. I do have a color chart here with all of my Faber-Castell colors. I have 5 different lines of Faber-Castell tools. I've got the Pitt, I've got the Sketch, I've got the Polychromos, I've got the Gold Faber, and I've got a pastel set. And so I have been trying to merge into one color chart so I can see how the colors relate across the sets. I do have a version of this chart in which I don't have the sketch markers embedded in it yet. So this is kind of what it would look like if I just had the 4. But like I said, I'm working on adding the sketch into this system. The sketch markers are the alcohol based version of these colors, and I've quite enjoyed figuring those out. Some point, I think I will sit down and I will do a nice page with just the sketch. But today, back to what I'm doing today, I'm going to be looking at these and filling in my color chart to see if there's any colors in this that aren't in the original Pitt line. I don't think there is, but I just wanted to check. And then at some point, I hope I will finish out the rest of this color chart. But we will get in to a coloring book and check out how they go down on these kind of pages, though I don't think they're too different than the original Pitts. I'd be surprised if they were a different ink, because the whole thing about the Pitt Artist Pen line is the fact that they're the India ink. And so they have a light fastness and a permanence that is just all its own. We're just going to start opening this. Lid just kind of flips open. Have all of the information. So the bullet tip part of the pen is in 0.8 millimeter. And I believe that the Pitt pens do come in a bullet nib that is thicker than that. But I have never picked up any of those because I prefer the brush. So all of my original Pitt Artist pens are brush tip. Let's see. I've got, this is the one I'm like always going to all of the time. This is the, I don't think it'll focus enough. This is the middle purple pink, which is 125. And on one end, you can see that brush. And then on the other, that bullet nib. I'm gonna keep this out, but you can see that it's all in different trays that you can pull out. It's 3 different trays. I'm gonna get them all out and then get this box out of the way. Focus a little more. My curiosity is mainly with the brush tip, if it's like, yeah, so it looks like it's the big brush. So those are both the same tip. So if you do have the big brush, it's going to be the same tip. The only difference, I think, is going to be that new bullet. And then just for comparison's sake, I pulled out just brush tip line where you can see that's a smaller brush compared to, oops, that big brush. Since these are all middle purple pink, they should, in theory, go down as the same color. So we've got the big, got the traditional brush, got the new brush on the dual, and then yeah, for the most part, I think what's happening with the traditional right there is because it is an older pen. Color might change a little bit, but they're still all in the same hue. They are pretty much the same color. Sometimes it just depends on the age of the marker. So you can use these interchangeably. That's what I really love about Faber-Castell is the fact that when it says that it is number, what is this one? 125. If there's a 125 in their polychromos or their gold Faber or their pastel lines, it will match very closely. That being said, I think I just want to go through and I want to lay down all of the colors and see if it's going to be filling in any new spots in my Artist Pitt line. Wish there was a super easy way without having to look at the pen to see which side is the brush, which side is the bullet, but the only indication you have is the pictures. It'd be nice if caps were slightly different so you didn't have to rotate the marker around to try and find the brush. So right off the bat, it looks like not all of the Pitt colors are in this new dual marker line. And another thing that I'm a little sad about is the fact that it doesn't have the color on the cap. All of the caps are this black, whereas you can see in some of the original, you've got the color on the cap. So I can lay them how you're supposed to lay the brush markers or the dual markers on its side and be able to find the right marker without having to have them all out like this. The way this color chart works is where there is an X, you see the little dot, that means that color doesn't exist in that line that I know of, but it exists in another Faber-Castell line. So far, the brush feels exactly the same, big brush line. I don't traditionally use bullet nib. Take forever to fill in one of these squares with a bullet. Use the brush for now, but I think in coloring, I will attempt to use the bullet. Okay, so here's where things get really weird. The contrast on some of these, not great. I probably would have used black ink on this, and as you can see, they do that on some of them. Why they used white on this one. So far, we don't have any new colors. I was going to be very surprised if there were new colors. The caps do have a good click to them, though. Normally don't like storing markers like this in these kind of tray containers, so I'm gonna have to decide how I'm going to put these in the future. Like I said, if I do use my own storage device, I might have to try and find a way to put color on the cap. And as you can see, my order is slightly different than their order. I'm trying to rearrange as I go. It will be interesting to see if they go back and end up adding more of these to the dual tip line. Okay, so like I thought, no new colors. Looks like some of these labels are coming off too. Okay, so these labels are actually printed on a sticker and then put on the barrel, whereas these look like they're actually printed on the barrel. Just something of note, I suppose. As you can see, there is a lot more in the original Pitt line in the gray range, in the brown. So the Pitt is this first line. It's all the Pitt colors. Surprised at how very few of purple pinks there are. But usually the smaller sets tend to lean towards those more natural neutral tones. So, I mean, you've got interesting set of the earth tones and the greens. Still interesting to see what they chose for this, but I'm guessing they did this. They chose the lightest of both the cool gray and the warm gray, or the cool gray and the warm gray, so that then you can just layer them to get darker tones. That's probably why they did what they did with the purples as well. It isn't a bad starter set, but as me being me and loving a full range of colors, I want more. I always want more. But with that being said, I will say so far my notes are I really wish that the color was on the caps. Some of the labels are kind of coming off some of the markers. Some of the labels are really hard to read. But otherwise, that brush tip feels exactly like the rest of the Faber-Castell line. And the colors right in line with the rest of them. I mean, they're staying true to what colors they're saying they are. Means I am going to bring out my infinite coloring book. We're going to do a few spots of coloring. Just get a feel for that bullet nib. So on this page, I've got a couple things started. I have used this book in the past to review, I believe it was the new Sharpie Creative markers. We're going to do something on this page. What that is, I don't know. I don't even remember what I used for those, but we could attempt, no, because we don't have necessarily some of the right colors. But we can, we'd have to go with a brush if I was going to do that. Where we use that middle pink, middle purple pink, whatever you want to call it. You've got maybe 10, which is the phthalo blue. For the purple, which is 136. That is the Pitt Artist Pen Purple Violet. I mean, we can play with those colors, right? We could do some of the bigger clouds with the brush and come in with the little clouds and or circles and try the bullet. See, this is why I want the color on the cap, because I am about to open 3 different markers at once, and I'm gonna have to keep track of this cap is what. I'm not always the best at that. These aren't necessarily built blending the way I'm about to use them. See how you can get that purple come in at the right time? Problem is they don't have good range of the smaller or the lighter. They do pick up the colors in the tips afterwards. They're very juicy though. I think if I give it some time to dry, layering these a little bit. This is a thicker page coloring book. I haven't gone through yet. I'm very rough with my layering. Now I'm starting to notice that the tip, the thing about the pits is that they are very prone to fraying. You get rough with them. While that dries, we're gonna flip these around. bullet tip out. These are a little better at layering than they are at blending. Really shouldn't have used them this way. The way I layered these and then tried to blend them, really eating the paper, are super juicy. The thing I'd learned about it is that you can get a very rough blend if you go in while the marker is still wet. But if you let the ink dry, you can then start layering colors. And that's pretty much the nature of the India ink. It dries permanent, so you can just keep going over top of it. The stuff underneath doesn't move, even when it's got water added back into it. So in theory, once this dries, I can come back the purple or the pink, and I can attempt to get a better gradation of that color. But like I said, the drawback of these kind of pens is that there is a very limited lighter pastel versions of these, so you're just going to get more and more saturated, more and more muddy as you're adding all of those layers. Am I thrilled with the way that turned out? Probably not. Am I wholly surprised? It is something that I wanted to test out. What I could do is come in with this Deep Scarlet 219. And get a little bit of detail work if you've got a new brush. Haven't started fraying yet. Part of me almost wishes that this bullet tip still a little finer. Did I just fill in the wrong stripe down there? I did, didn't I? Have to fix it now, won't we? Black. What I get for playing around real time, you get some of the honest looks at what the heck is going on. Got some buckling of the paper, but overall, no bleed through. But like I said, this is pretty thick. Do I recommend these pens? I think if you enjoy the original Artist Pit line, then yes, because you have the added versatility of the 0.8 millimeter line. However, if you don't enjoy some of the nuances of India ink, or if you haven't experienced how India ink is different than other inks, I suggest maybe trying out one or two of the original lines before you get a set, or try and find something on sale to give it a try before you go big. Because I have heard a lot of complaints about these because it's a different kind of ink. It works differently. It's not necessarily made for coloring, even though a lot of times that's how I like to use it. I will keep my eye out to see if they get any more in this line. Still, I need to find a way that I'm going to store these because I'd like to store them with my originals. But I can't necessarily do that because, like I said, I have no indication on the cap of what the color is. That is probably the biggest drawback for me, is the fact that caps don't have indication, so the caps can get screwed up and it's hard to see what pen I am grabbing when they are laying on their side. But I am glad to see that Faber-Castell is playing around with what they want to do with their markers and trying something a little new. It'll be interesting to see if these continue to exist and they get expanded upon. I don't know. I don't know, because like I said, they've already got the original artist line that I've never had any issue with. And like I said, I really like the fact that the color is on those caps and they let you know if it's a brush or a bullet nib. With that being said, if you have ever used any of the Pitt Artist pen line, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about these pens, this ink, your experiences with them. If you're thinking about trying these out, like I said, try one or two first. See if you enjoy the way that they go down on paper and how they dry or blend or don't blend. And if you would like to continue to see videos like this, subscribe down below, hit the bell, do all the things to get all the notifications. And I hope to see you again in another video.